Hello. I don't have my glasses, so I hope looks okay here. But anyway, let me introduce you to. This is Goldie, little Goldie. She's a friend of mine's dog, but she comes to see me. Okay. Anyhow, I'm gonna come at this from a different way. Let me tell you a story about back in 1961. Here you go. You stay with me. You want to stay? You want to lay down? Huh? Okay. Back in 1961, they did what's called the Milgram study, where they took several participants and put them in front of this little machine. It looked like I don't know, kind of like a little radio or something, but about that big, and told them they were going to be a teacher and they would get paid after this was done. But they told them you had to finish it. Someone told them that was in a gray smock, like something like a scientist or someone of, like a boss. Told them to do what they told them to do. So, and what they told them to do, there was a guy, there were I don't know, somebody else in another room adjacent to this place. Anyhow, so they said you're going to read them these things, and you're going to ask them about this certain subjects or whatever, and they're going to answer. They're going to answer the questions. If they get that question wrong, you will push this button here, and it will administer a electric shock to them. And each time that he, didn't get the right answer, each shock would increase as the time went by, as each question was done. So you didn't want to get too many of those shocks, Now, realistically, there was nobody in the other room. What they had were recordings, a recording of somebody being shocked, like grunts and like that, and all the way to people thumping around, on the wall, against the walls and stuff. If they didn't know that, what they knew is there was somebody in the other room, and he had these electrodes hooked into him, and he was going to get shocked. Okay. What it told, because 65% of these people killed the guy, simply because, and by the end of when they killed the guy, you could hear thumping and screaming and begging, whatnot, on the other man that they were that were getting shocked. I mean, that's what they heard, and still 65% of those people killed the guy. That says a lot about human behavior. It's an awful thing to think that we are all subject to that. Now, then there's another study, I can't remember the name of it, where they had somebody in the next room, and this was a study where, you know, if someone was in the next room and screaming, or they would, you know, and was having a medical emergency, you know, like a heart attack or whatever. Now, at first, the first batch of people thought that they were, along with several other people in, you know, other deals, and when they saw that this guy is having a heart attack with all these other people, that they figured that someone else would go and get this guy help, and would continue, you know, on their business, and they wouldn't worry about it because someone else is sort of going to get it, you know, take care of it. That guy died because nobody came. Whereas when the person thought they were the only one who could see this, well, then they did go and help and get this guy help. Okay? So you see, when you got groups of people, we tend to not always do the right thing. Now, I myself know how that feels. Not because I was the one who would do something bad, but, you know, who knows? I may have. Who knows? I didn't do the study. But there is a community of people who have been attacking, and here's the way it first went down. Is God called me to be a certain person and he anointed me to be a leader to bring people back to God, basically, and give people hope. Okay? A couple of people in my family decided, well, no, we don't like that. We want to do that. We'll do it. You know, he's not good enough. But God and their ancestors, that's who they chose to do this for them, and stop all the curses and whatnot in my family, was me. So I came about, and I did as much as I could do. Meanwhile, these people were spreading lies. Then I had an ex who they got with, and got her involved in it. And she was telling lies about me that never happened, because, you see, she was saying that I had abandoned her while she was 4 months pregnant. I hate to tell all of these people, but that woman doesn't even have the female parts to have done that. She can't get pregnant. The reality is that those parts were removed from her years ago. It was just a lie. And then there was another woman who was in it, who told this person, this ex, that she and I had been, you know, like on him, you know, doing naughties, while I was with this other ex here. And that wasn't true. I'd never been with that woman. She and I had been friends, but she had a husband, and I ain't going for that. See, I mean, my belief is that when you're married, you don't do that, and, you know. Now, the ex and I, we're not married. I had asked her to marry me one time, but she said no. She could count on that I was never going to ask again, because I'll only ask once. If I get turned down, that's it. It's over. That's the way I saw it. And the next time she and I got in a fight, she called the cops on me for just to try to get me hemmed up. That was it, and I left. That's how that really went down. That's the whole truth of the matter. Now, all these lies were going around, and I didn't know exactly what the lies were, but I do know it made me. They were told to make me look as bad as I could have looked, and well, I'm not gonna honor any of those lies. So I figure I'm not going to listen to them. I'm not going to hear them. I'm not going to. But you would think that all these other people that they got involved would have at least asked about it. But nobody did. Nobody ever came to me and asked anything. Those people never spoke to me. They were just busy throwing out the lies. And I haven't seen them in 6 years or better. I haven't spoken to any of them for 6 years or better. Well, but they keep on. There's one guy who is actually gay, and I'm not gay, okay? So the times when he had tried to come on to me and stuff, I said, no, listen, I'm not gay. I'm never going to be gay. And so, no, the best we can ever be is friends. I'll be willing to be friends, but I'm not going to be any more than that. I like women, and so that pissed him off, I guess, and he got in with the mix, and it's like snowballed ever since then. And they were not stopping. They were getting worse and worse. And so after I went to bed early last night, and I woke up to one of the readers on there who I watch, and she's a good friend to me, Anyway, and she's like, I've been trying to explain that no, I really can't deal with these people. Please don't suggest that I would be with any of them. I wouldn't, because listen, they've done way too much. And then I guess when I wasn't there to say anything, she realized, she saw it on the card. Wow, they really are doing too much. These people are going crazy. And I said, yeah, I woke up to it. Yeah, now you see it. Thank you. And I woke up this morning, and I guess the ancestors and God had seen it, because things are changing. And so the reason I told you that these behavioral studies is because I listen, I don't hold a whole lot of animosity towards anybody, but I do want everybody to know what the truth of the matter is. These people got together, they stole an inheritance, they stole a house and a car that were left to me, okay? I never got to see them. They got inside the computer somehow and got to the stuff and took it all. Not one single dime was ever showed it to me, but they owe. They owe even more than that now, because what they did was unforgivable. So I wanted to set that record straight, because I'm sure that a lot of people who are spiritually gifted can feel something's going on there, Well, now you know that's the whole truth. I'm not perfect. Never have been perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. I'm doing the best I can just to be me. I don't do a whole lot of more than than go out and have a party and stuff like that. I'm sure that they were told, oh, he's a party hound, and he's never going to be nothing. The way I heard it is he's not shit, he's never going to be shit, and never going to be shit. Okay, that's what they told. That's probably the best part they told. And a lot of people who know those people have to look and see now that, wow, you made us hate and destroy a life with your lies. Because that's what they did. I mean, God can fix it, and God and I can fix it back. But if I were by myself and there were no such thing as God, I'd be screwed. My life would be destroyed, completely destroyed. They didn't stop at that. I actually three of them wanted to come and get me and supposedly go have a drink. I don't believe that for a minute. No, they were up to some sneaky evil business. I said, no, we're not going to go there, and we aren't ever going to go there because they can't be trusted. Those are people who have lost the right to ever be in my life. I'm a nice guy. I really am. I'm nice. And I listen, I would have asked. I would simply ask, is any of that true? Nobody ever did. No, they just fell right in line with this bunch and continued on their merry way and never thought to find out about what. And this is the reason why they did it. For greed. Envy and greed. Have they ever paid any of that money back? Have they ever? They're over there living in the house that is actually mine. And I've kept my mouth so quiet about it, and I see how this is all going to roll out. Some of them have been in jail and been doing things, I don't know. I know that there's actually been, I believe, a death or two in that bunch, because I know from what people on the other side, and so that is the whole truth about it, and I want you all to know that is the truth. Here's the Bible. I promise on this Bible that what I just told you is God's honest truth. There he sits in the picture right there. God, you heard me. I know God because I've met God. He came to me one night, and when he asked me, see, I didn't just do this, get in a thing. Someone asked me, someone who's higher than all of us, came to me, and listen, I pay God his due. I mean, like I said, I've broken laws before, and stuff, but nothing like they're suggesting, and still to me, that God's laws supersede all laws, and so if he comes to you and asks you, would you do this for me? How many people would not do it? I mean, standing right there looking at you. You can see it in the man's eyes. When he came to me, he had white hair. He had a red smock on. And over that smock, he had a breastplate. Like Romans, have. That's what he looked like. And when he left, I mean, he made me promises. He said, okay, what can I do for you? And I said, well, God, I don't need anything but money. He said, well, how about a car, a house, something, This is going to be a journey that is not for the faint of heart. And it hasn't been. It's been 6 years of pure hell. And though what most people see is they see me laughing or smiling, and that's probably all they're going to ever see, because I'm not the kind of guy who's going to go out and, because I'm having a bad day, I'm going to throw that down on you and make you take it. Have to put up with a bad day. It's just not my way. And that person who was my ex, I know, and I knew then that, and I loved her. I did. Because, listen, that's what she needed more than anything. Because I could tell she wasn't the kind of person who ever got loved. Not really. And she made the mistake of losing somebody who loved her better than anyone ever did. That's sad, But, it is sad, when people don't understand who they are and what. I mean, she prayed for somebody like me. So God sent me. And I took an old house that she bought, and she said, if you'll stay here and do this to the place, and make it livable and nice looking house, I'll give you half the money when I sell it. I said, okay, deal. And I stayed there for 3 years, working on that house and the yard, and it was a mess. And I actually turned it into something that she made money on. But I think this guy who was the gay guy or whatever it was, and this other girl who said I'd been with her, hadn't been, all got together and divvied up some of that money, with her, and she wound up having nothing of it, These people are they're pure evil, That's what they do. That's how they make their living. The woman's husband, who I said I wouldn't cheat on because of the shit, he was even involved in it. Then they got my sister and brother together and got them involved. Now, they become more evil than I know. I don't even know how to be that evil. And I'm sad about that because, well, I just am. I'm not going to say any more about that until I run this through me as much as I can to know exactly how I'm going to deal with it. But know this, they are wrong and I am not. And most of the people who have known me know who I am, or not with these people. No, I'm not the kind of guy who's out there hurting people or doing mean things to people. They can see who I am. And these people knew who I am too, but they just, hey, it's easy to do something mean to somebody if he's doing all this crime and all this stuff, But, no, that's not cool. I'll tell you why. Nobody ever asked me anything because of that. They don't go around stalking people and breaking into their house and getting their ID card and taking it out and doing fraud on them. They did all that too. These people were awful. This is God's day, so I'm not going to say any more than that. To me this Sunday, it's me and this guy, the little fellow there. She's a girl, though. She's a good girl. She is. I want to thank that breeder who helped that to be recognized as just how far they've gone. Because really, I'm relieved today knowing that they can't come near me. They can't. It's going to take a hell of a lot for them to make up for what they've done. you know. Anyway, I'll say a little prayer here. Father, I've been present as you asked. And I ask you to protect me, protect all the people out there who are going through such things. And let these people see who they are and how they're acting and how they've been, so that they may learn the lesson and finally get back to you. Because they are going around telling people what good people they are. And what I've seen, I haven't seen any of that goodness for a long time. So I'm just telling it like it is to God, you know. But to the people who do see this video, bless them for sitting a minute and having it what to say, you know, to find out what the truth is. I pray in your son's name, as you told me, you said, stay close to my son. Well, I'm as close to him as anybody can be. So I ask that you look out for me and make this come to the ending that you would have it to come to. In your son's name I pray. Amen. Okay. There you go, guys. That's the truth. And we'll leave it there.